4-4 consists of isosceles and equilateral triangles. We're going to learn the rules and what they are. You have a note sheet in front of you, so your job is to just copy it down as we go on, slide through slide. The first is the sides of isosceles triangles. The congruent sides are called the legs. Therefore, AB and BC are the legs. The non-congruent side is called the base. AC is the base. Angles of isosceles triangles. The angle formed by the legs is called the vertex angle. Angle B is the vertex angle of triangle ABC. The remaining angles are called the base angles. Angle A and angle C are the base angles of triangle A, B, and C. Isosceles triangle theorem. If two sides of a triangle are congruent, then the angles opposite those sides are congruent. Given that JK is congruent to LK, make sure you mark those on your picture. Then angle J is congruent to angle L, the ones on the opposite. By opposite means you can draw an arrow across your triangle. Let's go ahead and work on these 6 examples. So there's 2 types of problems in these sets. Some that deal with angles, these here when they're on the inside, and some that deal with sides when they're outside. So let's look at number 1. These markings tell me that it is an isosceles triangle. Therefore, if Q is 2x, then R is also 2x. Now the rule is that 3 angles in a triangle add up to 180. So 40 plus 2x equals 180 degrees. So we solve to give us 2x plus 2x equals 140. We could have combined these at the beginning to give us 4x equals 140. You divide by 4 to get that x equals 35. But our number 2 is different. You can't set it equal to 180 because they're not angles, they are sides. The rule is that if these angles are congruent, then these sides are also congruent to each other. 2 things that are congruent can be put equal to each other. And just solve. To give you that x equals 12. Now look at numbers 3 and 6. Are these 2 going to be angle questions or are they going to be side questions? Since they are on the inside, we're dealing with angles for both. I will set up number 3 for you and you'll finish 3 and also do 6. So for 3, this is a right angle. This tells us that y is 3x, z is 3x. 90 for the right angle, plus 3x equals 180. Go ahead and solve this problem. This is what you should have gotten for number 3. Now go ahead and try number 6. So for 6, this one here would also be x. So you get the 3x, let me use a different color. 3x plus x equals 180. You get 5x equals 180. You divide to give you that x equals 36. So now let's go ahead and try numbers 4 and 5. For number 4, move this off for x. I'm just going to clear all this extra stuff, that way it doesn't confuse us. Once again, vertical angles. Let's start with this here. T and D are going to be congruent because of these lines here. Therefore, D is 6x plus 6. Now from vertical angles here, this angle here is 2x. So we can write that 6x plus 6 plus 6x plus 6 plus 2x equals 180. Because once again, we're dealing with angles. You combine your x's to give you a total of 14x. You can combine your constants to give you plus 12 equals 180. You subtract to give you that 14x equals 168. If you divide, you get that x equals 12. For number 5, remember that this one here is 30. Remember G is 30. Remember that this one here is a right angle. And remember this angle here is congruent to this one. But in order to find out what this one is, we can look at this little isosceles triangle here. If this is 3x, then angle L is 3x. Now, because of these arcs, which tell us that two things are congruent, that means that angle B is also 3x. So in this triangle here, we have 30 plus 90 plus 3x equals 180. You combine 120 plus 3x equals 180. Subtract. Divide. To give that x equals 20. Let's go ahead and finish the backside of these notes. Converse of the isosceles triangle theorem. Converse just means basically going backwards. It states that the two angles of a triangle are congruent and the sides opposite of those angles are congruent. So given that these two angles are the same, then the two angles opposite, the two sides opposite are congruent. Here it would say JK is congruent to LK. Properties of an equilateral triangle. Keep in mind that this says equal. It'll help you understand which one's which. If a triangle is equilateral, then it is also equiangular, meaning all the angles are the same. If a triangle is equiangular, then it is an equilateral triangle. That is a converse, meaning it goes backwards. If a triangle is an equilateral triangle, then each angle of the triangle measures 60 degrees. We're going to use it to solve each of these problems. Something to note, when you're dealing with angles, you need all three angles. When you're dealing with sides, you only need two when it's isosceles equilateral, because you want those two that are congruent to each other. So for example 1, if this is 6x and this is 6x and this one's 6x, because all the angles are the same. Therefore 6x plus 6x plus 6x equals 180. 18x equals 180. X equals 10. Number 2, I'm dealing with sides. So I only need 2, because these are going to be all the same. So 6x minus 5 equals 5x. If I was to subtract 6x, you get that negative 5 equals negative x divided by negative 1 to give you that x equals 5. For number 3, we're looking at this little triangle here. We have a right angle here, we have 3x on this one, and since it's an equilateral, remember all angles of the full triangle are 60 degrees. Therefore you get 60 plus 90 plus 3x equals 180. Go ahead and solve for x. You would get that x equals 10. Go ahead and try number 5 on your own. Just so you know, since this is 60 here, Since this is 60 here and these two angles are congruent, that just means, after solving it, that all of these angles will be 60 degrees. Therefore, it's an equilateral triangle. Since we know all the angles, we don't need those anymore. Just know that this equals this. Go ahead and solve for x. You should have gotten that x equals 12. And the last one I'm going to do is number 4. Seeing that there's lines all around, that means that they are all equilateral. Therefore, 4x is the same as it is here. And this is 4x, and this should be 4x. Therefore, these two should be the same. You get that 4x equals 40, x equals 10. The reason I did sides and not angles is because my x is on my side, not on the inside. So I don't need this 60.